If I were to ask you the question, what can you consider a speedrun? Most people would probably agree that a speedrun really just boils down to completing some objective in a video game as fast as possible. And when you break it down to terms as simple as that, then really anything and everything can become a speedrun if you think about it hard enough. But as with anything, some people took this idea a little too literally.
I've been waiting for this!
Weird and obscure speedrun strats are definitely nothing new, and lately I feel like the community behind them has been growing more active than ever, with some of the new and even crazier challenges popping up seemingly overnight. And trust me guys, the Kirby AIRRIDE 5 hot dog % run is definitely no exception. This run is quite possibly one of the most challenging and complex niche speedrun categories to arise in any game ever. Although the goal is pretty simple on paper, all you have to do is get 5 hot dogs in City Trial as fast as possible. But in execution, things get a little bit more complicated than just that. While most of the gameplay in Kirby AIRRIDE follows the typical battle race format, not too different from some kart racers, City Trial flows a bit differently. The goal of City Trial is to explore the city and collect items and patches which upgrade your AIRRIDE machine, which at the end of the event you'll then use to face off in a race against everybody else's newly upgraded machines, in a stadium event. But otherwise, the majority of the mode is 100% open-ended. You can explore the entire map if you really want to. And it's because of this unique format that the hot dog % run is unlike any other. The hot dog is a common food item which restores 25 HP and can be found sporadically throughout the stage among all the other items and patches, and unsurprisingly, is also the literal main objective of the run, making it just a little bit important. It's also worth noting that they can't be obtained in the Japanese version of the game at all, meaning that this run is exclusively limited to international releases. So right, we've got a region exclusive item which spawns seemingly at random, and we have to get 5 of them in as short a time as possible. Seems pretty scuffed if you ask me. But believe it or not, the strats and how you go about getting these makes all the difference, and can even put a gap between something like a 7-minute run and a 7-hour run. Of course, the option that most people started out with in the very first runs was the most simple. Just scour the map for all 5 hot dogs, hope you get lucky enough to actually find them, and call time, all while fighting the other CPUs and using your speed to its fullest potential. Just finding all of them by chance is one thing, and like I mentioned before, is extremely dependent on luck. But knowing where and how they're actually generated is a whole different story. Food items as a whole can be found sporadically throughout the map, and by that I mean that this part is literally pure RNG, so good luck with that. But luckily for us, there are certain areas where items will just consistently appear less often no matter what, and even some very specific cases where items will appear more often, like for example in 2 of the 3 grottos on the side of the volcano or inside the star pole. You also have a chance to get them from blue boxes which appear consistently throughout the map. With all this combined, players with the best game knowledge and pathing should, in theory, get better times overall. It's also worth noting that for this category, you're actually allowed to exit before the stadium event at the end of City Trial starts, and jump back in. Meaning that if you play your cards right and know when to jump in and out of the stages to reset the item drops for better RNG, you can have a pretty good chance of getting an insane time. Needless to say, the competition was heated, with frontrunner Pearstrike constantly shattering record after record, competing with others for the legendary title of Hot Dog King. Starting at around 7 minutes, times eventually begin to creep down into sub 5 minutes, and eventually even later into the sub 3 minute territory. But then, just when the category was getting competitive as ever, a new discovery in the strategy of the run changed everything forever. The Castle Hall Secret Chamber was the ultimate endgame for the run, with a chance to spawn 6 of the same item at random. If you were lucky enough, you could get not only all 5, but an extra 6 dog for the entire run all at once. The absurd RNG of this event is somewhere around a 0.13% chance of this actually happening in normal gameplay. To randomly get it would be a god tier skip, purely from chance alone. The only question left was, could somebody actually get it during a run? Yep. Slowly but surely, runners started to encounter the legendary chamber skip, taking the time down further and further, all the way down to where it's been sitting at a spicy 1 minute and 12 seconds by Pearstrike ever since. The run is definitely pretty funny, and all around just a fun way to kill some time in Kirby AIRRIDE. But when trying to get a time now is basically worse than the odds of getting a decent Ender Pearl trade in Minecraft 1.17, there's not really much of a point in trying to actually place anymore. Still, despite the insane odds, the Kirby AIRRIDE 5 hot dog % run will always go down in history as the best niche meme speedrun category in a Kirby game for the GameCube ever made. A very oddly specific feat, but we still take it. Whether it be completing a game in a certain way like blindfolded or without pressing a certain button, a lot of the best and my personal favorite gaming challenges are just that. Really oddly specific things that people just felt like making up in video games. And that's pretty much the essence of meme speedruns in the first place. When's the last time you watched someone speedrun Super Mario 64 16 stars with a DDR pad? 2 seconds ago? Yep, that's what I thought. How about the actual IRL pencil sharpening percent speedrun? And nope, I'm not kidding, this one is actually a real category that exists, and god, I just love that this is a thing. Alright, but take for instance a game like Pokemon, where off-meta challenges are pretty much ingrained into every part of the game, from the online battle scene to Nuzlocke, and yes, even speedruns. Rivaling that of even the most epic and Cody and quite possibly even gamer of all of the speedrun challenges comes the sheer Sigma energy of the Pokemon Yellow Ash percent run, which is quite possibly as insane as the 5 Hot Dog percent run, but on an entirely different level. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like, just play through Pokemon Yellow as normal, but the thing is you're only allowed to have Ash's team throughout the entirety of the run, and in the exact order that he does in the anime. Which basically means that after you get Pikachu, you'll then have to catch Caterpie, then a literal 1% chance Pidgeotto in Viridian Forest, then evolve that same Caterpie from before into Butterfree, and so on for the rest of Ash's Pokemon. Ooh, that's a loud sound. Oh yeah, and by the way, you remember that Pokemon episode that got banned for having guns in it? Well, that one still counts too, and in case you're not familiar, here's a short recap. Miniryu no Densetsu, otherwise known as The Legend of Dratini, was episode 35 and had some pretty cool stuff in it, like Tauros and guns. Makes you wonder why it got banned.
Yeah, it must have been the 29 Tauros Ash called for the end of the episode. Wait a second.
Yep, that means you have to catch exactly 29 Tauros before Charmander is even allowed to evolve. Keep in mind, still playing and beating the game normally. Trying to get a decent time in this category is a logistical nightmare. You'd have to be cracked to even attempt something like this. But catching 29 Tauros is still pretty funny, so I don't know. If you're down to even attempt it, the current world record for the Ash percent run is around 6 hours long. Possibly the longest meme speedrun in existence. But of course, it couldn't end there. No, 6 hours, that'll be too easy, too convenient.
Whether it be the glory of the 13% chance Hot Dog Chamber in Kirby Air Ride, or the absolute comedic genius of the sheer mental torture of throwing 300 Pokeballs at a bull for over 6 hours straight, I think nothing can quite possibly prepare us for what the speedrun gods had coming next. I present to you the Shadow the Hedgehog True 100% Run.
Some games were never meant to be speedrun. And look, I'm not saying these are bad games by any means, but no matter how good of a game Persona 5 Royal is, there's no getting around the fact that that game takes upwards of 130 hours to complete normally. At a certain point, approaching times that become impractical to iterate runs on and test out new strategies, a speedrun with consistent development just isn't possible. Is what I would say if there wasn't just a 14-hour world record run of Persona 5 Royal right in front of me. But there is. So, in reality, even if some games were never meant to be speedrun, that's obviously not stopping anyone from trying. Which brings us to the absolute hell that is even attempting to complete the Shadow the Hedgehog True 100% speedrun. For those unfamiliar, Shadow the Hedgehog story follows 3 distinct paths, sort of like a your decisions make an impact on the story type deal. And it's honestly pretty cool. You get to choose your alignment from good, neutral, and evil based on the different objectives you complete in each level, sort of like a Shin Megami Tensei game, but in its own way. But the only thing is, you can jump from one path to another at pretty much any point in the game, which all technically count as different, completely unique routes. And this goes for every level in the game. In every level, you need to complete one of 3 goals, the Dark Mission, the Neutral Mission, or the Hero Mission. And depending on the mission you complete, you then get sent to a different path, complicating things further, and sometimes you only have 2 options instead of 3. At the end of each run, the game will then create a library entry of the path you've completed, meaning to do a true 100% run of Shadow the Hedgehog, you have to beat the game 326 separate times. Runner Blazin' Zeddy currently has a world record of 181 hours, 14 minutes, and 47 seconds, attempted segmented over the span of 53 days. And to this day, this stands as what I could find as the only recorded attempt of this category ever. And keep in mind, this is still using the Chaos Control glitch for optimal movement. In reality, a glitchless version of this run would be exponentially longer. If anybody else is enough of a mad lad to even attempt this category, or if some new major glitch is discovered, this is definitely the one with the most room for new strats. But as for me, someone who's beaten Shadow the Hedgehog a solid 1 out of 326 times so far, I think the winning strategy is honestly just to
stay as far away from this game as f***ing possible, Christ!